Out in the wide fields of Hope Valley, there was a young woman named Annie who had just taken over her family farm. The land had been in her family for generations, but this was her first season running it on her own. Annie had grown up watching her father and grandfather work the land, plowing fields, planting crops, and harvesting the bounty that kept their family fed and the town supplied. But this year, it was all up to her. One spring morning, as she was preparing to plow the fields for the season's planting, disaster struck. The old plow, which had been used for years, broke right in the middle of the field. Annie stood there, staring at the broken blade, frustration bubbling up inside her. The nearest equipment store was miles away, and getting a new plow would cost money she didn't have. The season was just starting, but everything already seemed impossible. The sun was beating down on her, and for a moment the weight of the responsibility felt too much. How could she do this? She'd never handled such big problems on her own before. She kicked the dirt and felt the doubt creeping in. As she stood there, she heard the familiar rumble of an old truck coming down the dirt road. It was Mr. Wilson, an elderly farmer from down the way, who had known Annie's family for years. He pulled up and rolled down the window, taking one look at the situation. "Mr. Wilson, looks like you've hit a rough patch, Annie." Annie: "Yeah, Mr. Wilson, the plow's busted and I don't know how I'm gonna get these fields ready in time. It feels impossible right now." Mr. Wilson got out of his truck and walked over, his hands in his pockets. "Mr. Wilson, you know, Annie, I've been farming these parts for longer than you've been alive, and let me tell you, there's always something. Always a broken tool, bad weather, or a tough season. But you know what? You've got this." "Annie, how can you say that? Everything's going wrong, and I don't even know where to start." "Mr. Wilson, because I've been right where you are more times than I can count. It won't be easy, and it'll sure feel impossible sometimes. But you've got grit, girl. You come from a long line of folks who didn't quit when things got tough. Take a breath, figure out a plan, and keep moving forward. You've got this." Annie stood there, the frustration starting to fade just a bit. Mr. Wilson was right. She wasn't the first person to face a tough situation, and she wouldn't be the last. She realized that the solution wouldn't come all at once, but step by step, she could find a way. The next day, Annie made some calls, bartered with a neighbor for a temporary plow, and got to work. It wasn't easy, and there were plenty more challenges along the way, but Annie pushed through each one. She figured out how to repair the old plow herself, saved up for new equipment, and managed to get the fields planted right on time. By the end of the season, the crops were coming in strong, and Annie looked out over the fields with a sense of pride. She had faced what seemed like an impossible challenge, but she had done it. She hadn't given up. The moral of the story is, no matter how tough things get, no matter how impossible the situation seems, you've got what it takes to pull through. Life will throw all sorts of challenges at you, and there will be days when it feels like nothing is going your way. But it's in those moments that you need to dig deep. And remember, you've got this. It won't be easy, and it'll test your strength, but you've come this far, and you're stronger than you think. Just take it one step at a time, and before you know it, you'll look back and see how far you've come. Keep going, because you've got this. In conclusion, Brokenwood Mystic Farms symbolizes the enduring connection between humanity and the land, a tribute to the beauty of nature and the importance of honoring traditions in a changing world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You won't want to miss our short story adventures. If you have any questions, requests, or just want to say hello, feel free to contact us at info@brokenwoodmysticfarms.com. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and have a fantastic day, my friends.